Okay, our grandfather, JB, his father's name was Henry, and he was a farmer as well. And Jay and I went back last summer and we found his grave. Scott's been there where he was born. And then his father was Andrew Jackson. He went by Sallee, and he also was a farmer back in Virginia. Now, our grandmother, Fanny, who was a Hanks, her father was a farmer for 50 years. He also was in the Civil War. And his father before him, his name was Billy, he was a farmer as well. Now, on the Hutchison side, which we have Glenn and his daughter Diana and her husband, we are here representing the Hutchisons. Joseph was an engineer, a farmer, a wagon driver hauling coal, a teamster hauling gravel for a gravel company. 1930, he was what they call a truckman transfer, and I don't really know for sure what that job was there. His father, William, was a trader, a merchant, and a farmer. So it's interesting to go back and look this up and think, well, what was my grandparents and their parents, what did they do for a living? What was it about them, maybe that influenced who I am today? Ancestry has an ad in which they say, unlock your past. And so it's kind of like going back and thinking, well, who am I? Who was my family? Who were my grandparents? What were they like? What was their personality? What was their occupation? What was their, maybe their church affiliation? What was there about them that contributes to who I am today? And so, in thinking about that, that was their time, and we're have been digging, trying to learn about them. Now we are writing our story. And so I wonder, 50 years from now, 100, will our ancestors, our grandchildren, will they say, who was our grandparents? What were they like? Did they influence who I am? And I think about that in the sense that our grandparents were godly people. Grandma Fanny, Grandma Ida were godly people. And I contribute their influence 2 generations ago to who I am today. So I'm thinking in the future, will my descendants, will they care who I am? Will they want to know what did my ancestors, did they leave me anything? Did they influence who I am? And so I find that very interesting to think about that. And I like to unlock my past, if you will, as much as I can, because I want to know as much as I can about my ancestors. On the Stevenson, Keith and I and Margie, our grandfather, William James, our mother's father, born in 1873, I think it was, died in 1939. The 1900 census, he was living with the family, about 26 years old, I think. His occupation was servant. I found that very surprising that was listed as an occupation, that he was a servant to a family in 1900. 1920, he was a general farm laborer. So that was interesting because I didn't know what he did. I didn't know really much about it. So it was interesting to me to find out that's what he did for a living. And then on the Beck, which is our grandmother Ida's mother, great-grandmother was a Beck. All of that family were farmers, which was pretty common back in the old days. Most people were farmers. That's how they made their living, mostly, before it became the industrial age, and so on and so forth. Now, one other statistic that Jane found out and put together, you may or may not want to know this one.
Thanks, Jane.
4 generations, and she looked at the Stevenson, the Sallee, and the Hanks, Fanny's people. Their average lifespan over 4 generations. Anybody want to guess?
40.
Okay.
73.
You're right on there.
80.
You're a little high. You're pretty, yeah, you're about, yeah, that's right in there too.
74.
Yeah, we're right in there. 70 of the Sallee plan over 5 generations, the average lifespan was 70 years. On the Hanks, over 4 generations, the average lifespan was 72 years. On the Stevenson, over 4 generations, the average lifespan was 75 years. It's pretty well in line with the 410 that the Bible gives us, is it not? Or yeah, 3 score. Sorry.
That was 407.
Yeah, I like the first one better, but anyway.
Just thinking of Gettysburg Address.
So anyway, I find all that fascinating and interesting. I wasn't as interested when I was a child as I wish I had been. Dad was very interested. And I miss my dad. Miss my dad, miss my mother. And the older I get, the more I miss my dad and my mother. But I wish I had listened more. I wish I had asked more questions. I wish I could sit down with Mom and say, Mom, tell me about your dad. Tell me about your mother. Tell me about your aunts. Tell me about your uncles. I want to know everything you can tell me. I wish I could do that with Dad. And Dad did tell us a lot, but we didn't really listen like we should have. So we've been digging. James really done a lot of research and dug a lot of this up. And it was interesting to go back to Kentucky last summer, where Dad was from, find 4 or 5 family cemeteries, ran into a cousin by accident in a library that we had never met. The little place where Dad was born, the little town where Grandma went to college, the old boarding house where she stayed is still standing there. It's an apartment building today. So you read about these places when you're doing research, but when you go there and lay eyes on, oh, it was right here. This is where Grandpa was born. So anyway, the older I get, the more it means to me. So thanks for listening. If you have something to share, we want time for anybody that wants to share anything that's on your mind, of stories, of things we may not know about. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott. He's going to share some info.
Yeah.